So, hello, first of all.
Hello.
Welcome to Chiasso.
Thank you. Thank you.
You have just given us a very nice introduction on the book you just wrote regarding the collection of this special animal, insect, actually.
Yes. Yes.
And I'll leave you to introduce a little more and to give you a little more insights on this little animal that you
Oh,
collected.
yes. The hoverflies. In Italian, you said sirfidi.
Sweetie.
It's a special kind of flies that you find them almost everywhere, and they all try to pretend to be someone else. Try to look like wasps or bumblebees or things like that. And I had been collecting those flies for many years on a little tiny island east of Stockholm in Sweden.
And I hope I get your surname right. I might be wrong. So, Fredrik Sjöberg,
Oh, yes, quite good.
this is quite
Yes,
good.
yes.
He wrote this fantastic book, which title is in Italian L'arte di collezionare le mosche. And I have some questions regarding both what you said during the presentation you just had at the festival, and also, of course, regarding the book. So my first question would be, following the topic of this year's edition at the festival, the second class. I
Yes.
don't know if someone gave you any introduction on this
Yes,
before
yes.
I hand it to you, but and especially basing yourself on the work and the studies you perform, because let's say to the public you're a biologist
Yeah.
by studies. Do you believe that the animal world is deemed inferior compared to humanity?
Yes.
And can you elaborate more on this?
Well,
Principle.
for me, being human is to be aware of, for example, that life is ending and all these. We have a conscious. Animal world doesn't have that. Well, maybe if you can discuss it when it comes to the big apes and so, but certainly not insects. They are more like plants, I would say. Uh, they they um, they don't have any conscious. So
I
of
had-
course, for me, it's important to make a difference between humanity and the animal world.
Especially in your book, right? When
Yes,
is the-
well, if you're talking about insects, it's easy. I mean, it's not elephants I'm collecting, so
it would be much harder.
yes, and it would take much more
Space-wise,
space.
it would
Yeah,
be much harder.
it's one of the good things with fly collecting. It's very, you can do it without
In a
a big
limited
house.
space.
Yes.
My second question is, how much is your territory, and of course the nature around you in this little island that you talked us about,
Yes.
influence the way you were writing and your creativity?
The limited space.
The limited space and also the territory in general, because the nature, I believe, is very different from what you
Oh
would
yes,
find in the
yes,
seaside,
yes.
for example.
Of course, the nature on this island is very special. And for example, there are 9 lakes on this island, and there are islands in the lakes on the island. So it's very special. And of course, I get quite a lot of inspiration from that, and especially the limits. I need limitations, whatever I do, in time and in space.
Limits that come also, I mean, this is not the original title that the book had. The translation that we have in Italian is this collection, which is not exactly what you phrased it in Swedish originally, but these limits come in this title of collection. Collection is a limited thing.
Oh, yes,
You
yes.
limitate the nature around you, right? And I would like you talked a lot about how you need limits.
Yes.
Is it in order to explain yourself? Is it in order to understand the nature around you?
It's in order to understand the world, I would say, because the world is too big and too complicated for me to grasp it. Therefore, I always need limitations, and then I can understand a little bit more about the whole world by studying something very, very narrow.
My following question is actually related to the narration of the story, because let's say you went from writing biology studies
Yeah.
and textbooks, but very specific.
Popular science.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
things like-
Scientific
Yes, yes.
texts, to writing a narrative story.
Yeah.
What triggered the man of science to make this change, to go and write a novel?
Well, it's vanity, I would say, a lot, because we all want a bigger audience. I wanted to live a life like this, cruising around the world for festivals like this. You won't be invited to Chiasso if you write boring books on insects, scientific things. But you can be invited as a poet or novelist, and obviously also by writing books like this. So let's say it's vanity.
It's a nice way of putting it. Is it also, you mentioned the extension of the audience, and you, during the intervention you made, you also said that if you would have presented only flies as they are,
Yes.
nobody would have been interested.
No, of course not.
So you added elements to it. You added people and you added
Yes.
stories, of course.
Yes, I knew from the beginning I had to tell stories about something else. Of course, I write a lot about those flies because they interest me. But I was pretty sure that they wouldn't interest you. So then I had to write stories about something else. And that's why the book became so strange, I think.
But this was mostly a stylistic decision you made.
Yes, it was. Of course, it was. I myself get pretty soon fed up with books on only one subject, and so I love books like this myself. That you never know where they are going, but you just can't stop reading them.
That's true. And my next question is, were you expecting to achieve such a big success with this book?
No, not at all. We were all surprised. Believe me, I didn't expect anything from this. I just wanted to write this story, but no one thought it would be a success. No one.
Especially abroad, right? Because you mentioned before that the narrative writers in Sweden didn't really welcome you as a biologist.
No, because I was only one of those boring scientific writers, writing about things they didn't understand, and therefore I wasn't considered a real writer until I had my success in other countries. Then well, they let me in in the community of those the real writers.
The real writers.
Yes, vanity again.
Vanity.
I'm sorry, but
It's human, right?
yes,
My next question is related. I mean, you might be aware that Mikael Niemi came to
yes,
ChiassoLetteraria last
yeah.
year.
I know that.
You might have known. And, you know, he talked a lot about, I mean, at least in the interview he did with me, about the irony he puts in his books.
Yeah.
And the fact that for him, it was a natural development of the story. Because
Yeah.
for him, you know, the oral translation of stories is very important for his, you know, the way he developed his own narratives.
Yeah.
For you, it's totally different because you come from a completely different background, I guess.
Yeah.
But I wanted to hear from you how you developed this irony, because you have it as well in the collection of flies we see.
Yes.
And especially when you talk as well. There are
Do you think it's something special for Swedish writers? This irony is self-irony?
that would be my question to you.
No, well, it might be so. I wouldn't say so, but of course Mikael Niemi he's a very funny writer. It's you laugh when you read his books, and it's a self-irony that is, I think, it's wonderful. I wouldn't say that this is typically for Swedish writers, but maybe, might be so. I haven't thought over it, but maybe since we are such a small country and Swedish language is so very small and no one understands it. We have to be, maybe we have to be ironic to reach out. I don't know. If I compare us with the German writers, for example, they are not so keen on irony. The British are, so it might be a bit Swedish, yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.